Hi, Sparkles. Welcome back to the Intuitive Wisdom Podcast. Today's conversation is one that will expand your understanding of consciousness, creation, and what it means to truly channel light. My guest, Georgia Jean, experienced a life-changing spiritual awakening in 2004, a knock-you-to-the-floor moment that opened her connection to the circle of light, a non-physical collective devoted to supporting humanity through our evolutionary shift. Since then, Georgia has shared thousands of transmissions filled with profound teachings on how the matrix of reality is created, and most importantly, how we can generate radical shifts to assist both personal and collective upliftment. In this episode, we talk about what it's like to become a channel, developing psychic abilities, and how consciousness itself can sometimes crack us open to new dimensions of truth. Georgia shares insights on her R.A.A.R technique, that's resistance, activation, and release, and how if something's not manifesting, there's some kind of resistance. It's a beautiful, high-frequency conversation about trust, surrender, and co-creating with spirit. Here we go. Welcome to Intuitive Wisdom, a space where insight meets energy and intuition leads the way. I'm K. Margaret Solorio, author, Angel Reiki Master, biotech graduate, and a guide for those seeking alignment in their home and life. Whether you're navigating change, clearing emotional clutter, or simply craving clarity, Intuitive Wisdom invites you to slow down, tune in, and rise into your authentic self. New episodes weekly. Come home to your own knowing. Okay, Sparkles, before we get into today's episode, I have a few quick announcements for you. First, Insight Timer shout out to Ruth. Thank you for the 5-star rating for my course, Meet Your Spirit Guide. It's now available on the Insight Timer app, and this course already has 113 students and 4 5-star reviews. This course will help you learn to connect with your spirit guide and receive clear, trusted guidance with calm and confidence. Next up, you can take my free quiz. Have you tried it yet? It's called Is Your Home Supporting Your Expansion? It only takes a few minutes, and you get some clear insight into how your space may be shaping your energy and where you can start to shift things. So you can get that at deliciousease.com/quiz. And if your space feels heavy, stuck, or just a little off, my Home Frequency Reset is a remote, intuitive, energetic refresh designed to bring your home back into harmony with you. Perfect if you're craving a fresh start or deeper alignment with your vision. And last but not least, my book, Make Ease Your Vibe, is available on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle versions. It's packed with practical strategies for energy, time management, and shifting your mindset. Get away from that negative self-talk. Plus, you get access to exclusive chapter bonuses that I've created, a chapter outline, and then extra content to go along with each chapter. Once you purchase your copy, you go to my website, deliciousease.com, enter in your information, and get access right away. All right, without further ado, here's my conversation with Georgia. Well, welcome again, Georgia. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you today?
I'm great.
Wonderful. Well, you may know on this podcast, we like to explore what it means to live in alignment with your energy and trusting your intuitive wisdom, how that can transform both your inner and your outer world. So I was curious for you, if you could share a time when your intuition nudged you to do something unexpected.
Oh yeah, I have a fun story about that. Yes. I am a hula hooper, along with being a channel and an intuitive person. I'm a hula hooper, and I had done a retreat in on the Big Island of Hawaii. I had held a retreat where we were like hula hooping and doing energy work and communing with nature. And I don't know if you've ever organized a retreat. Sometimes they're actually really stressful to organize. I had booked a little bit of R.A.A.R on the North Shore of Oahu. I just booked this tiny little room on the beach and on the North Shore. And I was on the beach, kind of relaxing, and I was having a hula hoop, and this guy, at the time I was living in New York, and this guy kind of walked up to me and started chatting with me, and I had a bit of that like New York resistance going on, I guess. And he chatted a little bit, and I was friendly, but not that warm, I guess. And then he went off into the ocean, and I said to myself, or I heard, Georgia, you know, um, open up and be, this person's trying to connect with you, open up. So he came back up to the beach and I struck up a conversation with him and we just started talking. And then he's like, oh, you're a hula hooper. I know these people who do acro yoga. So why don't you, come and bring your hoops down? There'll be acro yoga in the park. And I was like, okay, cool. All right, I'll do that. And I went down there and there ended up being a bunch of people from the skydiving place on Oahu there at the
Wow.
acro yoga. And I met some of these people and I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to skydive or try it, do a tandem. So, um, yeah, this seems like the best place to do it. I love Hawaii. It seems like an amazing place to do it. So I end up talking to one of the guys from the skydiving place, and I booked a tandem. I ended up doing 4 tandems, and
Wow.
ended up becoming a skydiver. Now I have like 18 or about 1,700 jumps. I
Oh
live in
my
a drop
goodness.
zone. And the whole point of this story was, and I think, my own retreat that I had held, which was, supposed to help change people's lives, actually changed my life. But if I hadn't have listened to that voice saying, hey, open up, talk to this person, this person's trying to connect, I actually, again, would have like kind of missed out on this, this sort of, this point of connection. Oops. Sorry, I think I just
Yeah.
dropped
And
a second there.
yeah, it sounds like a big part of something
And
that
now
brings
it's
you
like a
so
huge
much joy.
part of my life. And that guy, we ended up becoming friends. And every time, because for a while I went backwards and forwards to Oahu after I did that, that retreat and connected and did the tandem, I ended up going back in the following winter to skydive. But every time I went back, this guy always had a room at his place. And I ended up eventually moving to Hawaii and moving into that place. So not only did it open up this kind of world of skydiving, but it also opened up every time be like, I'm going to come into town. He'd be like, oh, a roommate of mine is away. You can sublet a place. And yeah, that's where I ended up living for several years. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I know as part of your journey, it has gone from being a professional comedian to a
Yeah.
spiritual channel, which is
Yeah.
such an amazing and unique. I don't want to say combination, but like through thread. And when I think of comedians, they seem like a little bit the epitome of humanness because there's this, you're in it, but you're aware enough to see how ridiculous it is sometimes and brave enough to share it with the rest of us and point it out to the rest of us, I guess. So I'm curious how you made that transition or how it came up, if it creates some sort of balance for you, having been on both those sides, which seem like a little bit extreme of the experience, maybe.
Right, right. Well, I think the thing about doing spiritual work is that ultimately its purpose is to help us deconstruct our ego, including what we call it
Mm-hmm.
now the little me, which is
Yes.
sort of limited aspect of ourselves, but it's also part of us that has a limited perspective. So going back to viewpoint, when we're listening to our intuition, we're actually letting something come in from a much broader place and speak to us. We're dropping our ego enough for a moment to hear some guidance that's coming from a bigger place. And yeah, stand up so much is about the ego and the little me and the sort of trials and the tribulations and the stories of humanity. And I think for me that time too, it was actually a super challenging time in my life because I was performing at the Comedy Store in LA. I was a regular there, and that place was a very toxic environment. Like that
Oh,
actual club was probably the darkest color of ego I've ever seen.
oh no.
Um, and so I was doing a lot of work on myself to really deal with the stresses of doing stand up. And I had also started listening to Abraham Hicks and learning about law of attraction. This is back in like 2000. Well, I was there from 2000 to ended up leaving it in 2004. Um, but so the environment got so bad that no matter how much work I was doing on myself, it just wasn't improving. And I kind of wasn't really listening to that. Ultimately, finally, things got so bad, so traumatic that I had to leave that club. And then a week later, I ended up having this huge spiritual event. And it was like this big lesson that I learned, that I was staying at the Comedy Store because I didn't want to be defeated by this it was this sort of toxic masculine energy at the time. And I was trying to make a stand for women and all this sort of stuff. But really, it was about a lesson that I was kind of in my good ego at that time. And I was missing a bigger message, which was saying, hey, you need to get out of here because we have this whole spiritual event waiting for you. You know, all this work that you've been doing on yourself to evolve through this situation is actually leading to something that I had no idea would ever happen to me in my life, which was having this sort of spontaneous event and spontaneously beginning to channel. Now I knew about the phenomena of channeling, and there was some other things that were leading up to it. So I wasn't afraid of the phenomena. I was kind of like excited about it, but I didn't expect that it would happen to me. And that kind of, yeah, just opened up a whole new life path, basically. And I think given that it took me a lot to listen to what was something bigger was trying to communicate to me. I hope that I've become better at listening to the messages when they're coming in a softer voice.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely is a softer voice. I'm so impressed by how, I mean, I can only imagine how difficult it was to leave, but then you created that space in your life, and within a week it was full with something better.
yeah,
That
yeah.
turnaround is so quick. It's lovely.
Really, really learned a big lesson from that, a huge lesson from that. And because it was a big opportunity for me. It was really difficult for me to leave. I felt like it was my opportunity that was being taken away from me because of just the environment. But I had to, yeah, I really had to like surrender at that point and go like, okay, I've got to let this go. And yeah, something else happened. So, you know what, it's corny, but it's true. You know, what is it? One window closes and a door opens, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's nice to have that example too. When you channel, you work with a group of guides called the Circle of Light. Can you
Yeah.
share with us a little bit more about them and what
Yeah.
messages they bring?
I mean, so much so that
Everything. Bad question.
21 years ago. That's a great question. I appreciate you asking. So over the course of 21 years, I have been channeling, and I'm a like I channel a lot. Like some channels don't channel. I'm like I'm kind of a workhorse in terms of channeling. So I've been doing I've done thousands of sessions between clients, and every Monday night I do a conference call, and these energies come in, and they came and they sort of gave that name the Circle of Light. Well, initially they called themselves the Council of Light, and I think I thought that was a bit ostentatious or something. So they kind of like simmered it down to the Circle of Light. And at that time, they were sort of like, we're a group of guides. And they were like, it's Archangel Michael. And even, I don't know if you've heard of Seth at all. Seth is another very famous channeled entity from the 60s that I was reading at the time. And I think the consciousness was giving me a sense of identity about the energies that were coming through.
Mhm.
But over the years, I've had my own consciousness cracked over and over and over again. So the work of addressing the little me certainly didn't end with the blast of spiritual energy coming in and receiving all this information. In fact, it really leads to having to work even harder to deconstruct that little me identity so this broader consciousness can come through. And now they really say that it's just consciousness responding to whatever the asking is. So whether I'm working with a client, they have certain questions, or their energy is of a certain flavor, a stream of energy. I can channel a lot of different energies, and including just super high frequency where there's almost no speaking, and it's just the energy coming in to help
Hmm.
like delete files from people's brains and beings and our process. And they really came through because we're here sort of supporting this evolutionary shift of the planet, because humanity is going through a massive transition at this time. So our work has been to help people understand where all the programming comes from and how to deconstruct and dissolve that programming, so we can actually really open up and allow a new consciousness to kind of move into our human mainframe and take us into a new creative experience, one that is beyond the suffering that humanity has explored for so long and that seems like super amplified right now.
Yeah. Wow. There's a lot there to take in.
Yeah, sorry. Little
No,
question.
no, no. Thank you. I'll just re-listen again when I get the chance. Can you share a little bit more about your process of what it's like to be a full trance channel? I've studied to be an angel Reiki master, and I've done like some mediumship work, but never like a full channel. And I'm curious what that experience is like, or how you tune in.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, so I will say, I would like, before I share that, I'd like to share this about developing psychic abilities and other abilities, because as a normal human being, like me, Georgia, I've also done like hundreds of probably thousands of tarot readings. I worked in a bookstore in New York for quite a while doing readings, and I started to have mediumship experiences happen through those readings, and that was
Hmm.
always like super cool. Like, I absolutely love it, and I wouldn't say that it is my strength, but it's part of, like, if we think about ourselves as musicians, and I'm mainly a guitarist with the channeling, but occasionally I play drums with the mediumship, but I'm not as good, right? Or it's just not like, and I'm saying that to honor everybody's process, that we all kind of can attune into different levels of this
Hmm.
non-physical information, and we're all unique instruments, and
Amen.
some things we might have strengths in and some things we might have an enjoyment of. But so for the channeling, I honestly think, because I was a comedian, I was already very open in the throat, as you can probably tell. I'm just like chatter away here. So when there was kind of a build up to this experience where my friend was communicating to these energies through this thing called a pathfinder, which is kind of like a shamanistic talking board, kind of like a Ouija board, but it was all in the light, and we were always, inviting that, the highest frequency energies. And she would sit there, and this disc would spin around and just spell out all this information, and I would sit there and kind of write like the secretary to the spirits, like the spirit dictation. I'd write out what they were spelling out. And through that board, they were saying, we can give you a lot more information if you let us speak through you. And so
Wow.
my friend experienced a couple of things where the energies started to come in and it would press in on her, and she would sort of get these tears, and she'd just feel like really weird. And my other friends and I, would kind of gather around writing the spirit dictation, we're like, let them in, do it, because we had been to see Abraham. We knew what channeling was. We knew that it could be this very high frequency thing. It wasn't like this sort of spooky affair. And yeah, one day I just sat down and they started spelling out, there's like masses of energy coming in. You're going to feel a little strange. And I was really just waiting for her to start channeling. And instead, this huge surge of energy just poured into me. And I just kind of went into like an instant trance. And as I was going under, I just went, oh my God, I think it's happening to me. And then this voice just boomed through me and said, we're here and we're here to help the planet. And you're going to help us. So that was, this first weekend was this kind of like wild weekend where this room was full of so much energy. And I think that the beings that we work with were just trying to overwhelm the limitation of and the resistance of our ego mind, not
Hmm.
believing, like, just it was just like, get out of the way because this energy is coming in. And we had this kind of wild initiating weekend, and that experience, I guess, blew open my chakras, because prior to that, I would say that I was intuitive in that I could like touch somebody and kind of know where they had pain, but I
Hmm.
didn't feel energy the way I feel it now. And I didn't know anything that I couldn't know, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So after this sort of initiating weekend, there was a long period of kind of trying to believe and adjust that this phenomena was happening. My friend lived in Encinitas, and I went back to LA, and I had no idea that I could do this by myself, but it started to unfold that I could. But it was all very in the beginning. My body was like moving around, and what I was channeling at that time sounded a lot like content that I already knew from channeled energies like the Abraham Hicks material, which is a lot about law of attraction and positive thinking. So I always said I was a little bit like an Abraham Hicks cover band for a while, until over time you just let the energies come in. And a friend of mine would just sit with me, and we would just let the energies in. And a lot of times I couldn't even verbalize it. But she would ask, she was a very safe friend. So she would ask questions, and I'd kind of channel this stuff, and then the energies would come in. But that was really adapting my system to be able to do it. And simultaneously, that high frequency stuff was pushing up a lot of stuff for me to work through so I could become a clear channel. So it's kind of a combination with allowing the energies to come in, allowing your energetic and biological system to be exposed to these energies, which is what trains the brain to actually be able to interpret it accurately into the messages and the teachings. And then working through the resistance of the mind that's getting in the way of allowing these teachings to come through, and to allow yourself to believe that you're really doing it. And I'm sure you've experienced the same when you've done your trainings, that you have to do a lot of work with yourself. And we work a lot with love and acceptance and heart centering as being the way to allow the resistant ego to emerge and to be lovingly integrated, and kind of through that process, I don't want to say move it aside. You're actually integrating it such that it can dissolve into the experience.
Wow. Thank you. I was reading on your website, and you talk about some energy tools I'm not familiar with, R.A.A.R and seed point memory clearing. Can you tell us more about those?
So R.A.A.R is a technique that has been developed with my guides, working with people. So it's short for resistance activation and release. So one of the major principles of this consciousness teaching is, if something isn't manifest, there's some form of resistance to it. And so while a lot of people go with positive thinking, our work, especially because we've worked with a lot of people with chronic physical conditions, or high degree of difficulty or challenge in their life, it isn't enough to just be positive. What you actually have to do is stimulate unconscious resistance so it can emerge. And then the energy and the resistance itself is released from that resistant form, and then reintegrated for the expansion, for whatever the person needs energy for, whether it's physical healing or a project they're working on, or recovering from something, or opening up their own energetic abilities. The only reason why other people can't do what I do is there's some aspect of the consciousness, mental, emotional, physical, energetic, biological, that's in resistance to the phenomena. But all energy, whether it's resistant or not, can be changed and is mutable. So that's really the way that we activate the resistant energy to emerge, and then the techniques that we use to integrate that energy for the sake of expansion. And seed point memories that's a clearing that evolved, which is really about doing, like, say somebody's got a theme in their life, again, because we've worked with a lot of people with chronic stuff, or high degree of challenge, or, difficulty. A lot of the times, resistant energy isn't just a simple belief structure that we need to change, like from, I'm not good enough to I'm good enough. If it was that simple, things would be easy for people to change. So, and sometimes, it is that simple, and people just need to become aware that they have a resistant belief structure. But when you work a little bit deeper, then you start getting more into ideas of perhaps past or future life energy being part of it, or collective energy imprinting that's in our DNA, our deep subconscious programming. So seed point memories is about activating all the energy that might be creating resistance in a kind of a certain theme. So if it's lack of self-belief, it isn't just your lack of self-belief from this life, it's your lack of self-belief from all lifetime experiences that we would work through that activation. And it just moves a huge amount of energy, so bigger shifts can happen basically in the same amount of time. To work with somebody's single belief structure, you can do one of these bigger clearings, and it just moves a lot of energy. Yeah.
Wow. That's fascinating. Your book is available on Kindle. Can you tell us more about your book?
Yeah, so that book, The Circle of Light and the Philosopher, Keys to Unlocking the Soul's Potential, that one's a little bit older now. It was somebody asked me to basically interview the Circle of Light, and we did a number of sessions where he's the philosopher. He kind of asks these questions. Jefferson Piscati is his name, and he has a number of books along these lines where he's worked with channels, and he asks the questions, and then the channels come forward. And that book has really got some beautiful fundamental principles about how reality is created and how to unlock that broader potential that is, within you and beyond you, that's just waiting to be expressed into this world. And why a lot of people are incarnated at this time. We're sort of incarnated to bring forward this greater potential and seed it in humanity's consciousness, so humanity itself can evolve as a creative experience. So that one, I think we released that in 2009. I have a library of nearly 1,000 channel transmissions because I do these calls every Monday night, and I've been recording them. It used to be Mondays and Wednesdays, and I've been recording them since 2008. And so we're in the process now of transcribing all of those. It's such a huge amount of content.
Yeah.
And there's probably about 10 books in there. It just takes a long time to channel material is really hard. Like, whenever I go to personally try and transcribe it, because it's not just the words, there's a frequency in it, even if it's transcribed or not, that will actually take you into these altered states. So whenever I would go back to listen to these recordings, I just go into such a trance myself. I wasn't able to transcribe it. So one helpful use of AI,
Yeah. New technology.
trance sensitive, it's actually been able to. A friend is helping and transcribing this huge repertoire of information. Yeah.
Wow, that's exciting. Thank you so much. Is there anything you would like to add to our conversation?
I guess what I would like to say to people out there who are wanting to, develop their gifts or become more in tune with their intuition. And that's why I always like to use the music metaphor, because I think there's a lot of woo-woo build up about this. Like, you have to be gifted or someone special to be able to do this. And it really is more like an ability that you develop. And if you have the interest and the focus, just like if you wanted to learn the guitar, if you had the interest and the focus, you can work to peel away the layers that are keeping you in separation from the way your broader consciousness is trying to communicate to you and potentially through you to other people. And I think it's really important to kind of take it off the pedestal a little bit and not make it so like, oh my God, that's like a magical ability I could never have, and really understand that it's a process and that you're going to make mistakes too. Like, even when I started channeling, I was lucky to have a friend who, because I had one teacher who kind of pulled me over the coals about it a little bit, and that was a little bit scarring. So that I wasn't perfectly accurate from the beginning. And so finding a safe person as well to work on this and just play with it a little bit more, jam with it a little bit more, and try not to put pressure on yourself to be perfect and get it all right. Like, I always say when people come to us, it isn't like an omnipotent experience where we suddenly know everything about you. It's about opening up a channel and being in a conversation with a broader part of yourself, and to allow that it takes time to develop that relationship, and to not be afraid of making mistakes along the way.
Amen. Thank you. Where can listeners connect with you and your work?
Yeah, so my main website is circleevolution.com. That's circle like my guides and evolution like evolution of human consciousness. And we also have a podcast called Spread Your Third Eye podcast, where we break down a lot of stuff. One of my clients had wanted to start a podcast and was just such a fan of the work. She was like, it just kind of came about that we ended up doing this podcast together, and it's really, really fun. If you're interested in understanding a lot more about the all this information that's been coming through, that's a free resource for people to start. But circleevolution.com is my portal. We do one-on-one sessions, and we have a university of trainings as well, about consciousness and all this kind of stuff. So if people are ready to deep dive, go visit that, and you'll find access to all the other different things that we do. And I also do a free consultation if people a lot of people get overwhelmed when they come to our website with so much information. Like, you can set up a free consultation and we'll help you out, figuring out what's really, would be helpful for you right now in your journey.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciated this conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you creating the platform and sharing this work.
Thank you for joining me on Intuitive Wisdom. If this episode brought you clarity or inspiration, please take a moment to leave a 5-star review. It truly helps others find this space. And if someone you love, you could use a shift in energy, share this episode with them. You never know what might resonate. For more, explore my frequency reset service, tune into more episodes, or begin the journey through my book, all at deliciousease.com. That's DELICIOUSEASE.com. All right, until next time, trust your energy, honor your space, and keep coming home to yourself.